Good evening. I'm Yamiche Alcindor, coming to you from the NBC News Bureau in Washington, D.C. And here are some of the stories we are following now tonight. A new strain of Omicron. The CDC says nearly half of COVID cases in the U.S. are caused by this new strain. What you need to know to keep you and your family safe. Then, home for the holidays. The final push is underway right now for travelers to make it home from their holiday breaks.
I made it here just in time. If I would have left the next day, I would not have made it because every flight was canceled.
Plus, the new Congress, how the fight for House Speaker is playing out in Washington tonight.
Our Speaker locked in tomorrow.
I think we're going to have a good day tomorrow.
And retirement boost. The new year brings new benefits for retirees. What you need to know about Secure 2.0. A new coronavirus subvariant is taking hold in the United States. It's a mutation of the Omicron variant. You can see how dominant it's becoming nationwide. It now makes up more than 40% of all new cases. The next COVID strain makes up about a quarter of new cases. The CDC says there's no indication that the subvariant makes people sicker than others. It's also unclear where it came from. What we can tell you is that the CDC says it's spreading quickly. Joining us now, NBC News medical fellow, Dr. Akshay Sayal. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. So what can you tell us about the transmission of this new variant? How worried, frankly, should we be?
Good evening, Yamiche. Yeah, so this new variant XBB.1.5, it's part of the Omicron family tree here, but the concern is, it's a little bit out there in terms of the family tree, meaning, the vaccines that we have and the antibodies that we've developed from infection. The concern is that these may not be as effective with this variant as they have been with the prior variants. And I know we say that every few months, and it seems like, every few months there's a new variant that is immune evasive, as we call it. But with this one specifically, we're worried about, the vaccines, the bivalent boosters, and the antibodies we have from infection. Are they still going to be effective at binding the virus? And so, in talking to the CDC about this new variant, the thing that they're really watching for is, yes, cases are going to go up, but are those cases going to lead to a rise in hospitalizations? And are those hospitalizations going to lead to a rise in deaths? We're at a different point this year than last year when we had the, Omicron wave hit the United States with a lot of population immunity built up at this point. So the hope is, yes, cases may go up, but the effect on hospitalizations and the effects on deaths should be minimal.
So it sounds like what you're saying, that it might be more contagious, but it's not more deadly, just to make sure.
Yeah, the answer of is it more contagious? We don't yet know. This variant is relatively new. It's about 40% of cases nationwide, about 70% of cases here in New York, where it was first discovered. But as far as is it more contagious, we don't yet have the answer to that. But the CDC is looking into that, and we don't yet know, does this cause more severe disease? But those things should come apparent in the weeks to come.
And talk to us about how much our vaccinations, our current vaccinations, the boosters, how much they're seen as working against this new variant.
It's an excellent question. And about 15% of people over the age of 5 have gotten the new booster. And more worrisome, over the age of 65, we're only seeing about 1 in 3 people receiving that new booster. But to answer your question, the booster's targeted against BA4 and BA5, the other variants of Omicron. But there is what we call cross-reactivity, meaning that because the bivalent booster improves protection against similar strains, it does actually improve protection against XBB, the parent variant of the one we're seeing right now. And I know that's a lot to take in, but the takeaway is that you should get your bivalent booster. We're expecting it to improve protection against this new XBB.1.5 variant as well.
Just looking at that image, it really does in some ways bring home that we're still in the middle of this pandemic. I want to ask you, talk a little bit about where this new variant is taking hold, what parts of the country we're seeing it in.
Yeah, Yamiche, it's really the Northeast. It was first discovered in New York, and it's making about 70 to 75% of cases in the Northeast region are made up from this variant. And I asked the CDC last week, are you seeing a greater than expected rise in hospitalizations in the Northeast compared with the rest of the country? And, the good news is right now, there's no indication that this new XBB.1.5 is causing more severe hospitalizations, but that, we still need to wait in the weeks to come to see if that remains to be the case.
And as people are watching this, I wonder if you have any advice for folks who are worried about this new variant. I know I've heard a lot of experts say, get vaccinated. What would you tell folks?
The number one thing that you can do right now is to get your bivalent booster, especially if you are somebody it's been a while since you have had an infection. It's been a while since you've had a last booster. Maybe you've never even had a booster. You should really, really get this new bivalent booster to improve that reactivity, improve your antibody response against this variant, because it's very likely cases are going to rise in the coming weeks, and you want to make sure you have the most protection possible going into that wave.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Sayal.
Anytime.
And across the country, people are trying to get home. It's been another hectic day of delays and cancellations at many airports, but things are getting somewhat better. Tonight, we're looking at almost 600 flights canceled nationwide. Compare that to last week when we were seeing upwards of 2,000 to 3,000 flights getting scrapped per day. In Florida, the FAA has been slowing down flights across the state because of an air traffic computer issue. Technicians are still working to get fixed for that problem. The issue is causing delays of more than an hour in some cases. On top of that, we've got storms sweeping across the country. The most affected airports right now are Denver, Houston, and Atlanta. All are major travel hubs. We'll get into the forecast in a moment, but first, more on travel and the concerns. Let's go to NBC's Antonia Hilton at LaGuardia Airport in New York. Hi, Antonia.
Here at LaGuardia Airport, things have been pretty calm today, and most of the passengers that I've spoken with are grateful that the holiday crush is over and that for the most part their flights have been taking off relatively on time. There have still been a couple thousand delays and a couple hundred cancellations in the U.S., but nothing like what we were seeing just days ago when there were scenes of chaos and heartbreak at airports across the country, and people were missing out on important time with loved ones and on precious holidays. Right now, many of the people who I've been talking to are mostly concerned about what happens next with Southwest Airlines and whether or not they're ever going to be able to trust that carrier again. Take a listen.
So I made it here just in time. If I would have left the next day, I would not have made it because every flight was canceled.
It's a little disappointing because I've always had really positive experiences with Southwest. So, you know, with their, I don't know if it's computer glitch or their whole system and everything else.
Experts say that the next time you're planning to travel during a popular holiday time period, that there are a couple things that you should keep in mind. First, try to not check a bag. But if you have to, take a photo of the contents inside or get an AirTag or some kind of GPS tracker so that you know where your luggage is at all times and you can give that information to your airline. And then take a look at all of their customer service policies. You'll want to be familiar with what kinds of money you'll get back if something goes wrong, what kinds of supports that they provide, what their policies are, so that if things go wrong, you can be made whole again. Back to you.
So you have this winter storm in the Midwest, but also severe weather in the South. The National Weather Service has issued at least one tornado warning. Let's bring in NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns. Bill, what is the latest on these storms?
It continues to be a very dangerous and potentially deadly event. I mean, here we are starting the new year off with a nocturnal tornado threat. In other words, tornadoes at night with less lead time and people are asleep, and it's a dangerous situation. It already has been, actually. We know we've had at least one tornado that was in areas of Arkansas that went through a high school. There wasn't any students there, thankfully, with the holiday, but it did do some significant damage. We've also been monitoring near Monroe, Louisiana, just to the west of there, a very strong tornado that was rain-wrapped. They called it a particularly dangerous situation, so we're waiting to see how much damage that did. That was near a little town called Jonesboro, Louisiana, population about 5,000. And then it's pouring and raining in these areas, too, so if there is damage, it's going to take a while to find out just how bad, because first responders are just in horrendous conditions. And these tornado watches will continue, and they'll probably be extended throughout the overnight. And now we've even got a couple areas in Arkansas and Oklahoma that we're watching for potential tornadoes. So here's the at-risk area. This is given to us by the Storm Prediction Center. This will continue through the night. This area in orange has the greatest likelihood of seeing severe weather, and not just severe weather, but tornadoes too. So Shreveport, the Texarkana, Little Rock, this is the areas that we're concerned with. Later tonight, we'll start to see these storms heading towards areas like Memphis and right along the Mississippi River. And unfortunately, this will continue through the overnight, right through tomorrow morning, and we're going to wake up to a line of strong storms through Louisiana near Baton Rouge, all all the way back up in the central Mississippi near Jackson. And then tomorrow afternoon, an additional round of strong thunderstorms and maybe even a few strong tornadoes possible once again. So 2 days in a row in the middle of winter with potential tornado outbreaks. And the flash flooding is no joke either. Remember, flash flooding kills more people in this country than hurricanes and tornadoes combined. And right now we already have numerous areas under flash flood warnings. This region has been saturated from a storm we had right before New Year's. And this additional heavy rain, especially from Little Rock to Paducah, we're very concerned during the overnight hours of roads being washed out and people, getting stranded in their vehicles. And on top of all this, the cold side of this storm still has 15 million people under winter storm warnings. We have an ice storm ongoing around Sioux City, Iowa, down just north of Omaha, and someone's going to get about 1 to 2 feet of snow out of this. So, you mentioned it. I mean, we got everything. This is like the kitchen sink being thrown at the entire middle of the country.
The kitchen sink being thrown at the middle of the country. And this month, January, it's known for being a pretty active tornado period.
It's been an interesting developing trend over the last couple of winters that we will get some severe weather and get some tornadoes, especially in areas of the South. This will be the third storm so far this winter season that's done this. We've already had 2 tornado outbreaks in December, and now this could be one as we head into the beginning of January. So it's unlikely. We have had winters where we've had 1 or 2, but now if we're getting up to 3, and who knows what's going to happen the rest of this week. Yes, it's in a very interesting weather pattern, to say the least, as we start the new year.
Well, a lot going on. Hopefully people will be staying safe. Thank you so much, Bill, for that report.
Thank you.
In Mexico, a gang leader is among dozens of inmates who escaped from a prison after a deadly attack on the facility. This happened in Ciudad Juarez. The gunman used armored cars to breach the prison security. At least 17 people were killed in the fighting, including guards and prisoners. A major manhunt is now underway. NBC's Morgan Chesky is monitoring the latest from Dallas. So, Morgan, what's the latest on this manhunt, and exactly who is this gang leader?
Yeah, Yamish, this manhunt is currently underway right now. Mexican authorities have their work cut out for them because as of last check, 25 inmates were able to escape from this shocking scene that played out early Sunday morning. We know that among those who escaped were members of notorious cartels, and that gang leader you mentioned is a man by the name of Rafael Quintero. He was recaptured just as recently as this past July. Authorities say that they believe his gang, which was known to the Juarez area, broke him out. They're currently tied to the Caborca cartel, but this same Juarez gang in years past has been known to work with the infamous Sinaloa cartel. Right now, none of those 25 escaped inmates have been recaptured.
I mean, a fascinating situation. Can you tell us more about the attack itself, what authorities are saying? Was this coordinated? How did it all go down?
Well, they're still investigating the details, but a stunning scene played out early Sunday in Juarez, just across the border from El Paso, where, according to authorities, men in armored vehicles rolled to this prison and began opening fire both on the interior portions of the prison and on the exterior areas where guards were stationed. We know that after this gunfire began, 10 guards were killed, 7 inmates were killed. That led to this breakout of 25 others. We do know that after several hours, Mexican authorities were able to retake this prison, and they found some very interesting things. Among them, some VIP cells that were allegedly equipped with televisions, and in one case even had a safe that was stuffed with cash on the inside. They also recovered drugs of many types, including methamphetamines, fentanyl, heroin, and amounts of cocaine. That was inside the prison after authorities moved in. Yamish?
That's incredible details, Morgan. I also wonder, this same prison had a deadly riot in August, which is in some ways head-spinning. Can you talk a little bit about how this is happening? What are prison officials saying about how they're addressing security?
Right. It's amazing to think this similar situation played out just a few months ago. This August situation, according to authorities, started whenever there were 2 inmates that began fighting inside the prison. 2 of them were killed, and then members of an alleged associated gang started to shoot up the streets of neighboring Juarez. 9 people were killed in the gunfire there, including 4 members of a radio station. that were simply holding an event at a nearby restaurant. Yamiche?
A tough situation. Thank you so much, Morgan Chesky, for all of your reporting. It's been 3 days since police arrested 28-year-old Brian Kohlberger in Pennsylvania as a suspect in the Idaho college murders. According to his public defender, Kohlberger plans to waive extradition at a hearing set for tomorrow. That means he could be back in Idaho very soon. There, he faces 4 counts of first-degree murder. Yesterday, his family spoke out, saying they are cooperating with authorities and look forward to promoting his presumption of innocence. Joining us now is NBC News correspondent Gadi Schwartz. So, from my understanding, the affidavit, the probable cause affidavit supporting this arrest, it's still sealed, but what do we know so far?
Yeah, Yamiche, and it turns out that authorities are telling us that here in Idaho, the probable cause statement has to be sealed until the suspect can appear in court and be formally charged. And that's why we haven't seen a lot of details coming from investigators. So tomorrow, Wednesday, possibly Thursday, when he is brought here back to Idaho to face these charges, we could see that probable cause statement unsealed, and inside we'll see for the first time the evidence that was gathered against him, likely evidence that was seized from inside of this home, seized from his parents' home, as well as possible DNA evidence. We're told that there was a genetic genealogy used in this case, but that's coming from 2 law enforcement sources telling NBC News. When it comes to Idaho police, they have been very tight-lipped about what they've shared, and they've said that a lot of that has to do with that Idaho state law, and they don't want to give any of that information away before this suspect is brought into court and faces an Idaho judge. Yamiche?
And certainly a lot of questions still going here. We did say that the family has said that they're cooperating with authorities. But what else are we hearing from people who knew Brian Kohlberger? What are they saying?
Well, for people that knew Brian Kohlberger, we understand that he had a standoffish way about him based on some of the conversations that we've had with people that had him as a TA in an academic setting. But we've also been able to speak to some people that worked at a bar in Pennsylvania, and they said that they actually got into the bar system, the area where they keep all the tabs, and they wrote notes about him. And some of the notes said that he was creepy, or he said inappropriate things to women. So very off-putting, very standoffish from the accounts that we've heard so far. We've also heard unconfirmed reports online. But Yamiche, just got to say, one of those things about reading all of the online reports that you see about this case, so far, so many of them have proved untrue. And this particular suspect was not on the radar of any of those online sleuths that you see. So we're being very careful with the type of information that we are confirming. Because at this point, all we know for certain is that at some point, possibly this week or into next week, he will be brought back here to Idaho, where he will be facing charges, and we will know some more of the concrete details that are inside of that probable cause statement. Yamiche?
We're certainly hoping and looking forward to learning more about those concrete details. Thank you so much, Gadi Schwartz.
Sure. Thank you.
And new year, new Congress. While many of us are coming up with resolutions, lawmakers are focusing on legislation, what to expect out of Washington, D.C. in 2023, and the latest on Kevin McCarthy's bid to become House Speaker. That's all just ahead. Let's head now to Capitol Hill. Tomorrow, the 118th Congress is set to convene at noon. 82 new members will be sworn in for the first time, 45 Republicans and 37 Democrats. It's also the first time in 4 years that Republicans will hold a narrow majority in the House. Meanwhile, Congressman Kevin McCarthy moved into the Speaker's suite over the weekend. But opposition to his speakership is growing by the day. 5 members of the House GOP caucus have publicly opposed his bid, and on Sunday, several more penned a letter suggesting they could be no votes too. For his part, McCarthy continues to project confidence ahead of tomorrow's vote.
Leader McCarthy, do you have the votes for Speaker tomorrow? McCarthy, do you have the votes for Speaker locked in tomorrow?
I think we're going to have a good day tomorrow.
Here now is senior political reporter for NBC News Digital, Jonathan Allen. Thanks so much for being here, Jonathan. So let's first take a listen to what some Republican lawmakers are saying about McCarthy.
No, I won't be voting for Kevin McCarthy tomorrow. He's part of the problem. He's part of the swamp cartel.
Kevin doesn't have 218 votes, Lawrence. He didn't have 210 votes. He didn't have 200 votes. He didn't have 190 votes.
And these five guys decide to go out as kamikazes and see if they can't sink the whole Republican Party. I think it's a psychological problem. These guys can't count straight. They can't play tic-tac-toe. They can't accept victory.
So, John, what in the world is going on here? Why are these Republicans opposing Kevin McCarthy?
There are a variety of reasons, Yamiche. Some of them more personal than professional. Some of these guys don't like Kevin McCarthy a lot, and some of them very professional. Some of them believe that he simply would lead in the wrong direction, or that they don't believe that he has, basically solid conservative beliefs. I would say this. There are five people out there who have said they're hard-nosed, that they are hard-nosed on McCarthy, but the group of people who are inclined against him is a lot larger. The folks that signed this letter on Sunday saying that his changes to the rules package were not enough, a good sign, but not enough is another set. And of course, we never know how many there are who have not made their objections public. Kevin McCarthy at this very late hour still does not have the votes he needs to become Speaker.
And you say he doesn't have the votes to be Speaker now. Do you think he ultimately will get those votes? Do you think he ultimately succeeds here based on your reporting?
It's almost impossible to predict these things before as you know, with your own reporting in the past, it's very difficult to predict these things. But he needs a miracle at this point, more than a Hail Mary.
He needs a miracle. That's a tough place to be for Kevin McCarthy. I also want to ask you about the White House. Of course, we're going into an era of divided government. What are you hearing from White House officials about how they plan to deal with this? President Biden's agenda. I know I read some reporting today that progressives want to see more executive orders passed by Biden. What are you hearing?
Progressives would want to see more executive orders passed by Biden or signed by Biden, whether Republicans were in control of the House or not. They would like to see more executive orders when Democrats in the Senate are preventing them from getting the votes that they need for the stuff that they want. So I believe that that's true, but it is somewhat independent of this. I think the White House is doing its best right now to let the drama unfold in the House. Obviously, there's some political advantage to Democrats in, if Republicans basically can't choose a speaker on the first vote, or it takes some time to do it. At the same time, I don't think the White House is looking to add any particular pressure to McCarthy. There's no, huge love lost between McCarthy and Biden, but it could be even more difficult to deal with somebody who would come after him.
And one of the fascinating things when you talk about McCarthy and Biden's relationship is that this week we're going to see Biden and Mitch McConnell, who is, of course, the Senate Minority Leader. They're going to be out together in Kentucky talking about the bipartisan infrastructure law. Does that tell you sort of where the White House and President Biden are thinking as they enter into a situation where the House is controlled by Republicans? Do they want to sort of be seen as trying to be as bipartisan as possible?
Absolutely, Amish. Basically, they're going to go announce infrastructure spending for this bridge between Cincinnati and Covington, Kentucky, that's been in disrepair. And you're going to have Mitch McConnell there. You're going to have the Democratic governor of Kentucky, Andy Beshear. You're going to have the Republican governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine. This is what President Biden talked about on the campaign trail in 2016, being able to reach across the aisle. And Mitch McConnell is among the Republicans who is going to give him the political win there, which McConnell obviously sees as a political win for himself as well, at a time when House Republicans appear to be in disarray.
And as you talk about them being in disarray, I wonder what you make of the fact that former President Trump, he's supporting McCarthy, but he hasn't been able to pull those conservative Republicans from stopping McCarthy, at least for now. What's your sense of sort of how former President Trump plays into all of this?
I'm sure that former President Trump will claim victory no matter what happens in the House Republican leadership race. He will find a way to say that, he was right. Obviously, he's supporting McCarthy. He's out there publicly doing it. What we have not seen him do is tearing down these members that are opposed to McCarthy, which is something that he might do if he was inclined to put more pressure on them. But you're not seeing that. Some of the folks who are who are aligned against McCarthy are the biggest Trump supporters. Andy Biggs of Arizona, Matt Gaetz of Florida, very close to former President Trump. What you're not seeing is the Trump hammer come down on them.
Well, certainly a lot of Capitol Hill drama to watch for tomorrow. Thank you so much. NBC News' Jonathan Allen.
Take care, Yamiche.
Take care. And after the break, more of the top stories we're following this hour, including thousands lining up to pay homage to Pope Benedict. Russia also claims that a, quote, significant number of its troops were killed on New Year's Eve. And an update on the New Year's Eve machete attack in Times Square. That's all ahead. Stay close. It's now time for some of the big headlines we're watching tonight. Marvel actor Jeremy Renner is in critical but stable condition after a snowplow accident in Reno, Nevada. It is still unclear exactly what happened, but the sheriff's office is looking into the incident. Renner was the only person injured. Parts of Northern California are also underwater. A so-called atmospheric river caused widespread flooding and may have contributed to at least 3 deaths. Dozens of people were rescued from their cars after being stranded in high waters. And over in Brazil, thousands of fans are paying respect today to soccer legend Pelé. His coffin is on the field where he once played in his hometown of Santos. A mass will be held tomorrow morning before a burial. It's also a new era in Brazil. It's the first full day in office as president for Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, and he's already busy. Today, he met with the presidents of Argentina, Ecuador, and a handful of others from South America. His predecessor, Bolsonaro, skipped the inauguration yesterday and was instead in Florida. Lula was president of Brazil from 2003 to 2010. And if you're still looking for a New Year's resolution, maybe drink more water. A new study out today from the National Institutes of Health says poor hydration may be linked to faster aging and a higher risk of chronic disease. The findings are based on 25 years of research from more than 11,000 participants. Now to the Vatican, where more than 60,000 people visited the body of Pope Emeritus Benedict. The late Pope is lying in state at St. Peter's Basilica. And this is just the first of 3 days of viewing ahead of Thursday's funeral. NBC's Molly Hunter has more from Rome.
Tens of thousands of people lined up today, and you can actually see people are getting cleared out right now. Police are just moving people away. They have closed the doors for the evening of St. Peter's Basilica, where the body of the late Pope Benedict XVI is. Now, according to the Holy See Press Office, some 40,000 people, an estimated 40,000 people, got in the doors by 2 p.m. It was originally estimated that just about 30,000 people were expected every single day, but those doors will be open again tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning, and again Wednesday before the funeral on Thursday. The funeral itself, the Mass will take place in St. Peter's Square. Of course, it will be presided over by the current Pope, Pope Francis, the first time in 600 years that has happened. And these are two men with wildly different worldviews, with wildly different visions of not only their roles, but the role of church in the world. But we will hear from Francis, as we have heard over the weekend, really a message of unity, a call to the faithful to join together with one heart and one soul were the words that he used in his first Mass of the new year. Also interesting, we've been talking to people waiting in line, and what really stands out, actually, not just the legacy about his serious intellect, about that he was such a traditionalist. Of course, the headline of his legacy is that he retired in 2013. We heard really personal stories, people who had met him, people who felt very, very close with him. One man who made the trip from Venice this morning said, "This is what sons do when their father dies." So that is why he showed up, and we'll be talking to people all week ahead of the funeral. I'll send it back to you.
Touching reporting. Thank you so much, Molly Hunter from Rome. And the Russian military is making a rare admission of dozens of losses of troops. In a video posted to Telegram, the Russian Defense Ministry spokesperson says 63 troops have died after a Ukrainian missile strike on a base. The Ukrainian government has not officially claimed responsibility, but some of their forces posted cryptic messages that might be related to the strike. NBC News has not verified the claims from either side, and Ukrainian officials were not immediately available for comment. NBC News foreign correspondent Matt Bradley reports from Kyiv.
And that attack is already being called the single deadliest strike by Ukraine against Russia for the past several months, maybe even since the war began in February. Now, the Russian side said that 63 Russian soldiers, new recruits, were killed in this strike, which was done by HIMARS missiles provided by the U.S. The Ukrainians said earlier today that as many as 400 Russian troops were killed in that attack. But whoever you believe, It is a very significant attack, and one that has already drawn outrage and recriminations inside Russia. And that is very significant because that could affect how this war is conducted as we enter 2023. Now, also, here in Kyiv, we're seeing more blackouts, more cloaked in darkness, as we've been seeing for the past several months, because of these repeated strikes by drones and missiles against electricity infrastructure across the country. Now, this has been going on since the fall, but normally these sorts of strikes, this style of attack, would happen weekly. But just in the past 5 days, we've been seeing it every single day. And that begs the question, can Russia continue this pace? Does it have the equipment? Does it have the drones and the missiles to keep firing on these targets? What we heard from President Zelensky tonight, he warned Ukrainians that Russia was planning a prolonged attack very soon. He said that already since the beginning of the year, Russia had fired 80 of these Iranian-made drones, these Shahed drones, self-exploding weapons that don't really drop a bomb. They just collide into their target. And these have been used to devastating effect by the Russians. They've knocked out a lot of electricity. But according to the Ukrainians, thanks to American and other Western-provided anti-air weapons, they've managed to shoot the vast majority of them out of the sky. Now, the question is, as we go into the new year, can Russia keep up the attacks? Do they have the equipment? And does Ukraine have enough equipment to defend themselves against that?
NBC's Matt Bradley with detailed reporting from on the ground in Ukraine. Thank you so much. And just hours ago, the teenager charged with attacking 3 New York City police officers with a machete was arraigned in a Manhattan criminal court. Authorities say 19-year-old Trevor Bickford approached the officers shortly after 10 p.m. on New Year's Eve near the Times Square celebration. He is facing 2 counts of attempted murder and 2 counts of attempted assault. The officers have been released from the hospital, but the suspect is still there under police watch. He does not have a criminal record, but authorities say the suspect had been on their radar. They interviewed him just a few weeks ago after a relative expressed concern about his militant support of Islam. Now the FBI and NYPD are working together to piece together what happened.
And I want to be clear that the FBI, through the Joint Terrorism Task Force, is working very closely with them to determine the nature of this attack, and we will run every lead to ground. And I do want to be very clear, as you heard the mayor and the commissioner state earlier, that there is no ongoing threat. We believe this was a sole individual at this time. There's nothing to indicate otherwise.
Even if you're nowhere near retirement age, listen up. The new year brings new reforms that could drastically change how you save for your future. This all comes with the Secure Act 2.0, like automatically enrolling more people into plans, even new retirement options for part-time workers. It makes it hurt just a little less taking money out of a 401k early, and even adds employer matches for student loans. Joining us now is NBC News business and data reporter Brian Chung. So tell us about this new Secure 2.0. How's it going to impact people's lives? What are the provisions there?
Yeah, Yamiche, this was all included as part of the omnibus spending bill, which a lot of people only inside the D.C. Beltway were paying attention to. But there are a number of really important provisions for people that are saving up for retirement or even retired already through what they call the Secure Act 2.0. You were mentioning just a few of them. I want to rehash exactly what's happening here. Again, it's going to make the default for most employers being enrolled in part of these 401k programs. That's going to increase participation. Of course, you can always opt out if you want, but the default right now is you would have to actively go to your employer to sign up if you wanted to be part of a 401k savings plan. But then there's also things like, for example, reduced penalties if you have to draw from that fund early. There are emergency situations, be it a medical situation where you might have to tap into your 401k. Now you're going to be allowed to tap up to $1,000 per calendar year without too much of a hit to your expenses, as long as you put the money back in after that period of time. Now, there are a number of other interesting provisions as well. Broadly, you're going to want to take a look at the summary of this bill. There's just so many things in there. But for retirees, it seems like things are getting easier to save in a 401k as a result of these provisions.
And Brian, as you said, there are a lot of provisions in this. I wonder if we could focus on the student loan provisions for a while. Talk a bit about how this is going to impact people who are not only worried about paying down their student loans, but also saving for retirement.
Yeah, this is so interesting because for the newer, younger generation, there's a lot of questions over how can you participate in a 401k if you're having to take the money that you're earning and use it to pay off your student debt. So what the Secure Act 2.0 is going to do is that it's going to treat any sort of student loan payments almost as if you were putting money into a 401k for matching purposes. So a lot of employers will offer, for example, 3, 4, 5% of a match in terms of whatever you're putting into your 401k that they'll also provide into your 401k program as well that could be vested up to a point. Now, if you're not participating in a 401k because you're using that money to pay off your college debt, they can still provide a match for that, which would really help a lot of that generation, which is not able quite yet to save up money for retirement, but using it to pay off that very, very expensive tuition.
Certainly important information. There's also, of course, the idea that the retirement age, it just went up. It's going to go up again. So what should people be expecting as they think about the retirement age?
Yeah, well, for what it's worth, we're talking specifically about required minimum distributions. So there are laws in place that when you hit 72, for example, you will have to begin drawing from your retirement plan. Now, that is going to increase to 73 effective this year, and it's going to further increase to 75 in 2033. So if you are 72 years old, for example, and you thought that you were going to have to face a required minimum draw from your retirement plan, you can actually now wait one extra year. There's a few reasons for this. People are living longer, but there are penalties if you don't draw from your account. So hopefully expanding that timeline, allowing people to not have to draw as a required age will provide a little bit more breathing room for those retirees that are trying to plan out exactly how they want to get those distributions for their retirement plans.
Well, this is certainly news that you can use. Thank you so much, NBC's Brian Chung.
Thanks.
For many football fans, game day means tailgating and plenty of booze. But attending a live game can also be difficult for fans who are trying to stay sober. NBC's Sam Brock visited the home of the Green Bay Packers to see how one group has created a designated area for sober fans. Take a look.
Almost half the teams in the NFL have some sort of an experience that caters to families or to people that just don't want to be watching a game in the environment that's filled with alcohol. That includes Miami, where I am right now. They've been doing family-friendly sections here for like 20 or 30 years. But what we're looking at right now is a brand new concept. It's a sober support network that's being developed first in Green Bay, the only place in the entire country. It's been in place for 3 years, but it's really starting to pick up traction right now, and it's creating an experience that is changing everything for some fans and also their supporters. The Green Bay Packers Lambeau Field wouldn't be Lambeau
I love my Green Bay Packers
without the tailgating, the brats, and the beer.
It's a brewski. Brewski's for the Packers. Go Pack!
Now, the oldest franchise in the NFL is the first to try something groundbreaking.
You want a sticker? Sure.
Section Yellow, a first-of-its-kind sobriety station offering support and community for fans who don't drink.
Section Yellow is not anything about abolishing or saying no to drinking. We just want to give a safe area for people that are sober.
But this has expanded beyond what your expectations were?
Immensely.
The Detroit Motown Miracle.
Section Yellow was co-founded by recovering alcoholic John Ploggeman, a lifetime Packers fan with the shrine to match. He'd seen Fish fans embrace a similar sober supportive concept at concerts and helped to export the idea to Green Bay. For newcomers, Section Yellow offers information. For members of the sober community, it offers friendship. Here's a snapshot into how it's going. Witness the joy of Ruth Farrow and Lexi Sokol, huge Packers fans. The two met a couple of hours before kickoff. After Ruth, who stopped drinking in 2019, posted on the Section Yellow Facebook page, "I would love to go to the game tomorrow night. I'm sober and looking for a sober game buddy, preferably a gal." Lexi then responded, "I'd totally go with you."
Section Yellow provides that community. We can come together and conquer stuff and meet strangers and go to Packer games.
I get asked all the time, how do you have fun if you can't drink? Well, she knows exactly how to have fun when we don't drink, and we've been having a complete blast since we got here.
The blast, courtesy of Ploggeman and Section Yellow co-founder Thomas Doofman, who's also a certified counselor.
We are in a stadium that holds up to 82,000 people, and probably 80,000 of them are consuming some beverage that's got alcohol, so we want them to know they aren't alone.
In the eyes of many, professional football and alcohol go hand in hand. For decades, beer commercials have focused on football fans. But increasingly, NFL teams are recognizing not all spectators imbibe. 14 teams have now either established alcohol-free seating sections in stadiums, or in the case of the Packers, a designated support station for fans who don't drink.
We're proud that we are able to kind of start this initiative off and hoping that other teams will carry it on.
The NFL says it wishes to be inclusive and supportive of all fans.
We're about unifying and bringing people together, and I think Section Yellow is an extremely positive example of that.
John and Section Yellow followers hope that Section Yellow will soon be replicated on a larger scale, up to and including the Super Bowl.
Do you want to see this in more NFL stadiums around the country?
Oh, absolutely. I think Section Yellow is probably one of the best things that happened for this environment.
Taking the ball and running with it for sober fans everywhere.
What makes this all the more remarkable is if you look at the communities around Green Bay, they rank 1, 2, and 3, not just in the state of Wisconsin, but nationally for binge drinking. That is the environment in which this groundbreaking new program is really starting to gain some success. It's also worth noting that the NFL shares its best practices among other teams. So the teams themselves are coming up with the concepts, but if it really works, they're trying to make sure that others pick it up as well. So the hope, of course, is that it evolves and there's more energy and more success for Section Yellow, not just at Lambeau Field, but all over the NFL. In Miami, Sam Brock, NBC News.
Thanks so much, Sam, for that touching reporting. And as you just saw, it's not all bad news out there. Time now for your 60 seconds of joy. All over the country, people started the new year with a polar plunge. At Coney Island in New York, thousands took a dip for a good cause, with proceeds going to nonprofits. And luckily, the temperatures were in the 50s, though that's kind of cold for a girl from Miami like me. And it's not New Year's without the Tournament of Roses Parade. It's the 134th year of the celebration in Pasadena, California. This year's theme is Turning the Corner. Penn State beat Utah 35-21 tonight in the Rose Bowl. And it's already a very good 2023 for Star, the bulldog. The canine won Best in Show, and her owners are very happy, taking home the $50,000 cash prize. Star beat out thousands of other dogs, including about 30 other bulldogs. That does it for us. I'm Yami Shalsundar for Now Tonight. The news continues right now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.